This is the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sikkim Podcast is a production of Baylor Athletics. Now, here are your hosts, Brooke Bednarz and the voice of the Bears, John Morris.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Sikkim Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Happy New Year to you. John Morris and Brooke Bednarz as we turn the calendar to 2021. Had a nice little break in there, but here we are back with our first podcast of the new year.
I know, it's crazy. We did so many in the last year, 2020. We talked a lot about, why we even launched this podcast, and it was to keep everybody connected. And then we've had so much fun that we just had to continue it into the new year. So happy New Year to you. I'm excited that we have a fun guest to talk with us today. Talk a little bit about volleyball because it's 2021, and we're going to play some volleyball in the spring.
In the spring, of course. Coach Ryan McGuyre is with us, Baylor volleyball coach. First of a couple of guests we'll have on our Sikkim podcast today. Coach McGuyre, our leadoff hitter. Happy New Year to you. How was the break for you and your family?
Yeah, Happy New Year to both of you. Break for the family was awesome. Did a little bit of driving, or a lot of driving. Went to California, rescued my mom from that state, and drove her to Colorado so we could spend time with wife's family. I love the open road and the road trips, and my kids were on the nice list instead of the naughty list, so they had fun opening presents.
Very good. I've made that drive before. It's been a long time, but that is a trip, isn't it?
It is a trip, and there was heavy snow on the way back, so we went the longer way.
Cool.
Coming back, but new sights and different places to see, and just good fellowship. Me and my mom, who's out there to talk about the old days.
Yeah, that's good. So is she in Colorado for the time being, permanently, or just a break from California?
No, she's back there.
She's back in California.
So
okay,
I took my daughter out there. My brother's a captain, LAPD, and so we kind of had a mini Christmas out on the front lawn because that's all you could really do, like in a half hour. Drove my mom from California because they're just all shut down. Nothing's open. Don't celebrate. Only 2 households, and spent time in Colorado. And then with my youngest son, him and my mom, we drove her back to California, and then I flew back out here to Texas.
You covered a lot of miles.
I did.
That's great. Hey, well, Happy New Year, and glad you're with us. We appreciate you being with us. And as Brooke said, you'll have we've got volleyball coming up in the spring. I know nothing has officially been announced yet, but is that schedule starting to take shape?
Yeah, the schedule's taking shape, and we're really excited about it. It kind of it brings back old emotions of when I used to coach the men's team, because the men, compete in the spring. So, normally after Christmas you can kind of catch your breath and you really focus in on the recruiting. But now it's recruiting and then making sure we're getting everybody back here strong and healthy and ready for matches starting in February and national tournament in April.
What's been the process like for you, working with the team, making sure that they're physically and mentally prepared for the continuation of the season? Because all you've had was conference so far. You went 13-3, and so you're kind of flipping the book a little bit and going back into non-conference play, a backward season, so to say.
Yeah, we're definitely going to play primarily non-conference matches this spring, and I'm looking forward to getting back to the training. I think we missed last spring because of COVID, where you work on some of the individual stuff. So we'll have a little bit of time here in January and early February to get back to some of those fundamentals that are just so important. I think I might have raced through it with some of the younger players to get them ready for matches. So we'll touch on that, and then it'll we'll still get Texas home and away, and hopefully sharpen each other up for the tournament. But it starts with the drive with the girls, and they're hungry and they want to go farther than what we did last year, and the landscape's different, and we got more things stacked maybe against us, with just kind of a different schedule than the rest of the country playing. But glad Big 12 took the charge and made sure we had a season. So
So not official, but sometime in February is when your matches start?
Yeah. We'll open up February 25th in North Texas, and then we'll play Texas State twice. We'll be at Rice. Oklahoma's going to probably come down here for a weekend. I know I'm missing some other ones in there. We'll be at Houston, so
sounds very regional.
Yeah, Texas State. Yeah, it's all regional. It's all close. We'll follow all the COVID rules, and even though it's regional, some of these teams have won their conference or been tournament teams in the past. So it's it's not the top of the Big Ten and Pac-12, which I like to get one of those teams each, but it'll still test us, and we got to make sure that we. When we're scrimmaging within our own gym, that it's as intense as possible, like a match.
How do you feel the fall wrapped up? How do you feel going into the Christmas break, looking at the 13-3? How do you feel about that?
You hate losing in 5 to any team, anytime, and then probably that happening against Texas is kind of a bummer. I thought Yasi played, honestly, in a loss. One of the best matches I've ever seen from her, despite some of her big kill ones that we've had in the win. And we got great things out of Callie and got Hannah Sedgwick right there back at the end. So, but we said from the beginning, we win championships in April. So how can we use those experiences to really sharpen us for April? And, it's just new. I would have been great to get those wins to finish, but we put ourselves in a great position for a national tournament still, and need to sharpen up and be our best in April.
Well, John, I think it's going to be a very, very, very busy
That's
spring
true.
at the Farrell Center.
That is true. With the normal spring sports when they start up, and then we've got volleyball, and we'll have soccer in the spring also.
We'll pretty much have every sport but football.
Except
and then we'll
football.
even have spring football.
That's true.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, it's just, if you're a Baylor athletics fan, this is the time to be here.
Overload for
Yes.
sure. That'll be fun. And what's the mindset? You normally, like you said, you finish before Christmas, your season's over, you go into off-season mode. But what's the mindset knowing you're going to gear up and play significant matches coming up in the spring?
Yeah, well, it's spring, and so our focus is really going to be growth. We want to plant and, really plant some seeds and grow, and hopefully, with it spring and end of April and May, that we really blossom and are playing our most beautiful volleyball and have our most beautiful time together as a team. This team, I think our strength has been our culture and just the way we can grow and love in one another and just make it a great experience. I think, typically selection show is near Christmas, and we do that at my house. I think it's at Easter. So it's just maybe we'll do an Easter egg hunt.
Nice.
And, but again, there's just so many things we can celebrate through sport and beyond sport. And thankful that we have the opportunity to play in this busyness, and we know things change and there'll be some domino effects. If basketball gets moved around, we'll move around. But yeah, it's going to be a fun, new, exciting time. It's an adventure. Who doesn't like an adventure?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
There's only one Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's Ram from Allen Samuels. Now, kick off the new year with remarkable savings on new Rams during the Allen Samuels Start Something New sales event. This special New Year's event is underway right now, and you can save thousands on new Rams. Ram, for your family, farm, or business, and Waco's most trusted dealer, Allen Samuels. Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Your friend in the car business.
Whether on the field or cheering from home, Du Bois Furniture is proud to support the Baylor Bears. If your bear cave needs updating, Du Bois Furniture is here to help. With over 59 years of our family serving yours, let our experienced sales team help you find exactly what you want. We specialize in custom upholstery, stunning dining rooms, elegant bedrooms, gorgeous leather, and top quality mattresses. Come see us in Waco and Temple or visit us online at DuBoisFurniture.com. Du Bois Furniture, where beautiful homes happen.
Now, back to the Sikkim Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
You mentioned celebrating in and beyond sport, and that's something that you guys a little bit acknowledged and kind of launched a new challenge, the Molly Martinsen Challenge, pretty much right before Christmas break, I believe, to celebrate the life of Molly Martinsen. That's a name that if Baylor volleyball fans don't already know, I'm sure that they will, especially after this podcast. But kind of tell us a little bit about that. You guys have a new locker room. There's been some floor plan changes at the Farrell Center. So you guys have a new locker room, and that locker room is named after Molly Martinsen. Can you tell us a little bit about who that is and how that came to be?
Yeah, I think when I first came to Baylor, and just part of who I am is always this quest for timeless principles and things that live and last beyond just our own lives. And when you think of the number one fan, for me at Baylor, it's Van Davis. And Van Davis and her energy and the way she supports me and this team before she even really got to know me, it was like, man, she just loves this game. And we're talking about Molly. So Molly, through cancer, lost her life, I believe, at age 10. Was just, Van would have said was the number one fan as far as this young girl that just loved coming to the games and looking up to everybody. And despite going through chemo and everything, was I don't want to go home and rest. I want to get back on the volleyball court and play. And so volleyball for Molly was just the passion that helped her overcome. I think within us all, we're built and designed to be overcomers with whatever challenges we face in life. And just hearing from Van Davis, and then Jen, her mom, just how Molly was overcoming all these obstacles that kept coming and coming and coming, and really using it through the sport of volleyball. It's just clearly it's her passion and love also for the Lord has just been something that I'm mindful of. And I lost my best friend in 8th grade, and only child also. And, it's one of those things for parents that are just devastating, and I hope I don't have to experience myself. But, we hold on to those timeless principles and those values. And so I know even the previous staff was good friends with the Martinsens. And, to be able to when we talk about family and home, for her to be a part of it, to me, it's a no-brainer. And like I said, you could just, if you know Van Davis, because she probably shared the story with the most, is one who was also coaching Molly and helping that passion and energy. And she's saying, hey, this girl was even more intense and in love with the sport than me. And walked me through the trials she had. Is like, man, it's very impressive. And so, for us to have a locker room, we've kind of been wandering around campus at different locations since my time here, and we finally have a home for the girls, and have been able to have a good lead donation moving forward, and they wanted Molly to be a big part of it. So
I'm sure your girls, the current team, they know the story of Molly, and here they are benefiting from her and the generosity of others. It's a really nice upgrade to your locker room. I'm sure they know the significance of Molly's name being attached to that.
Significant upgrade for sure. And, I think we're talking about growth in this spring, because it was kind of a weird semester, and we finally got the locker room, but because of closed quarters, we couldn't even really be in there. So I'm looking forward to, I think the returners have a good, healthy understanding. I think, we got 6 new girls coming here in January. I think for some of the freshmen, we can continue to grow and instill and talk about some of those timeless principles that Molly brought. And, I'm not sure they've been able to hear from Mom yet, this group, because of the COVID stuff. So probably half and half there. So I'm looking forward to increasing that energy.
Well, the lead gift was given from a former Baylor volleyball coach, Mitch Castile, and his wife, Beth, who actually was a teammate of Jen, Molly's mom, here on the 1985 Baylor volleyball team. So there's lots of ties already to Baylor volleyball, and then to kind of have her named, Molly, the number one fan for a really long time. There was a nice article that Jerry Hill wrote about the legacy of Molly. You can find that at BaylorBears.com. But there was this one point where they talked about how she always was on the first row of the volleyball games, and even though she was like 8 or 9 at the time, she knew everything. She was like calling subs. She knew exactly what she was paying attention. She was not on a phone or an iPad, but she was truly enjoying watching Baylor volleyball. And so that lead gift by the former coach Castile, that launched the naming of the overall locker room. But now there is a challenge, kind of a continuation of that gift, and for an opportunity to everyone listening and Baylor athletics fans in general to kind of partake in the naming of all 22 lockers permanently in that new locker room.
Yeah, it's kind of we've had great momentum in doing that and raising the support through it. And I think just the last email, another 10 lockers have been supported. And this is kind of a first come first serve. Get in while it's going and really help us. It goes a long way. And again, that adds to the story also. You mentioned. I think for me and just the importance of athletics, like some of our best friends are always coming from the ones that we're teammates with. I think back who's in the wedding there. And so just picturing Molly on the front row and just knowing that friendship started, really on the court. And obviously the player-coach relationships are important too. And just to see our own children's passions and gifts come out through that and share that with others is great. And so, giving to the program through the Molly Martinsen Challenge is just another way to give into our family and our volleyball players' family and allow that to continue to grow and really strengthen the bonds they're going to have and feel confident they're going to continue to give back to their community in Baylor in such great ways moving forward.
So $7,500 donation to name a locker that can be paid out $1,500 a year over 5 years. The goal is to raise $165,000 by the volleyball tournament, the NCAA tournament coming up this spring in April. You said 10 of the potential 22 have already been spoken for.
Yeah, no, the momentum has been great. Jerry Hill wrote a phenomenal article that did really capture it. And, I think people are excited. It's our program's going well. We've needed a home. So you're giving to current athletes, but it's also part of a special legacy and memory as well. And, every year things are happening and there's new things, but, this is kind of a first. This is the first full home locker room for us in the Farrell Center, and even when we renovate it, we're doing it in a way where we're renovating around it, not going to have to make changes in a couple years or decades, but make it great right now.
And the proceeds go to the One Way Club, which is Baylor Volleyball's Excellence Fund. Tell us a little bit about that.
The name comes from we just know one way to play, and trying to do that each and every day. And then the funds from the One Way Club really pour back into the student athletes in a lot of those unique areas. An example would be like for Yossi and Kara and Shelly, who are trying to make the national team and be on our Olympic team. So it allows us to be able to fly them out to the Olympic Training Center where they can compete, train, and practice and have those opportunities to do that. It contributes when we're able to maybe do some of those special trips. We've gone to Italy in the past and Kenya just a couple summers ago. Our game is just so filled with innovation, and so it allows us to kind of keep up with the times with the state-of-the-art technical video and statting programs that really help give us an edge on how to improve ourselves as a team and defeat our opponents and scout them. And then a lot goes to, each girl has different bodies and health issues and how we can track those things and give them, specific devices and things that are going to keep them safe and healthy. So when you give the One Way Club, it definitely helps make the memories better and it lets us do those things that maybe are above and beyond, your typical budget type stuff.
So for folks listening, for more information, you can find Jerry's article. We've referenced it a couple of times. Really, really good. Just search The Legacy of Molly on BaylorBears.com. You can get to that story, and there's a link to click there if you go to that story. Or you could go through Nick Florence, through the Bear Foundation, Nick_Florence at Baylor.edu. Phone number is 254-710-7557. Or Cody Gogler in the Bear Foundation, Cody_Gogler, Gougler at Baylor.edu. His phone number is 254-710-2740. Or you can call me, or you can call Brooke, or you can call Coach McGuyre, and we will put you in touch with these folks. But what a worthy challenge here to try to raise these funds in the memory of Molly Grace Martinsen. So, Coach, thank you for your time. We appreciate visiting with you. Happy New Year to you again. Good luck as you gear up for the spring season, and we're behind this 100%.
Hopefully, we get the other 12 named here fairly soon.
Yeah, really excited about it. A lot of momentum. Nick and Cody have been spectacular in putting these things together. So it's just fun to work with great people here at Baylor and do some great things.
Very good. Coach Ryan McGuyre, Baylor volleyball coach. Take a break. When we continue on our Sikkim podcast, we'll visit with Jennifer Martinsen, Molly's mom. Will join us when we come back. You're listening to the Sikkim podcast, presented by Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, your friend in the car business.
There's only one Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It's Ram from Allen Samuels. Now, kick off the new year with remarkable savings on new Rams during the Allen Samuels Start Something New sales event. This special New Year's event is underway right now, and you can save thousands on new Rams. Ram, for your family, farm, or business, and Waco's most trusted dealer, Allen Samuels. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, your friend in the car business.
Whether on the field or cheering from home, Du Bois Furniture is proud to support the Baylor Bears. If your bear cave needs updating, Du Bois Furniture is here to help. With over 59 years of our family serving yours, let our experienced sales team help you find exactly what you want. We specialize in custom upholstery, stunning dining rooms, elegant bedrooms, gorgeous leather, and top quality mattresses. Come see us in Waco and Temple or visit us online at DuBoisFurniture.com. Du Bois Furniture, where beautiful homes happen.
Now, back to the Sikkim podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
Welcome back to the Sikkim podcast. I'm Brooke Bednarz alongside Voice of the Bears, John Morris. We just visited with Baylor volleyball head coach Ryan McGuyre to talk about the upcoming spring season, a little different, and also introduce a little bit into the Molly Martinsen Challenge and what that will mean for the Baylor volleyball program. Now we are honored to have with us Jennifer Martinsen, Molly's mother. Jennifer, we hope you had a happy new year, and we want to thank you for spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
And this is a busy week for you. Your son's getting married this week.
Yes, my son is getting married Friday. So squeeze this in right now.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yes. So we've talked a little bit. We haven't dove into Molly's story. We wanted to kind of wait to visit with you. But John and I didn't get the opportunity to meet Molly, as well as our listeners didn't get to. So I was hoping that you could maybe introduce us a little bit to Molly Grace Martinsen and just the kind of firecracker of a little girl that it sounds like she was.
Well, she was, and I miss her every single day. And I do love to talk about her, one of my favorite subjects for sure. Well, first of all, I'd say I'm glad you mentioned that. Is her middle name is Grace. And so how you know that, we later pondered, her dad and I, was that the right name? But it absolutely was. We saw that in her battle with cancer. But why her name was picked is we were at a Sunday church service, and we had a guest pastor speak, and he mentioned the word grace, and he said this is the one word that truly separates Christianity from other religions in the sense of that the Lord, we are saved through grace. And we both looked at each other, and after service said we knew we were having a little girl. Was a surprise for Ben, our first. And so that's how she was named Grace, and definitely knew Jesus. And that's the most important thing in all of this story. But she was born. She was 9.5 pounds when she was born.
Oh, wow.
And Ben was 8.5 pounds. And so I had a tough delivery with her. This is probably more than you wanted to know. But
no, it's a podcast. Perfect place.
A tough delivery with him. And so my OBGYN said, I really want you to, I gained 36 pounds with him. He said, I want you to stay under 25. And I'm like, hey, I'm a tall girl. I think I can gain more. He said, no, let's try to keep her under 25. So I did only gain 24 with her, but she was 9'5". Wow. And she came out just, I think, ready to compete. I mean, she was just solid from day one. And she wanted to keep up with that big brother that was 2.5 years older. And she never thought, I tell people, when we lived here and moved back to Waco, she was in 2nd grade, and her brother was in 5th. And we'd have all these boys over to our house to play basket. We had a big cul-de-sac, so they could play, baseball, football, basketball. And she just never thought that she wasn't supposed to be there. I mean, so she was just with 8 or 9 boys. And my son that's getting married has just been given with the gift of grace and loved her. He's known from day one probably that she was a better athlete than him. But then she says, Ben is so smart. But when they would get drafted, many times she would be drafted first.
Yeah.
And but he just loved that about her. And then she would just play with them. And to compete and play, and never thought that she shouldn't be there. And so she always loved life. Embraced it, tried new things. I think the picture that went in the paper a while back, or the article, was her on, I think, some sled coming down a hill with, her hair blowing in the wind. That was her. And so, again, it just I don't know how to describe that, but fully engaged in life, and engaged no matter what she did. She did her very best at it, and was a real encourager. She would, and people have said this even like before she got sick, but after stories came out, and then after she passed away, she was really the encourager for the underdog, the one that, maybe other people didn't see. And I just think maybe that was a gift she was given, because she was going to only live for such a short time, but she would support those that other people might have missed, and she wouldn't miss them. And she just always looked at people's hearts. So, as it said in the article too, she loved Baylor, anything with Baylor and Baylor sports. And her dream, she wrote it in her essay, was to play for Baylor. Even if Coach McGuyre didn't want her, she was playing. No, but that she wanted to play for Baylor and then go on and play for the Olympics. And we would come to every game. And now that's also, the Lady Bears basketball. That's the volleyball, of course. And we'd sit there on that front row. And again, like I said, she would we're in 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade before she got sick. And even when she was sick, we'd come from chemo or radiation, and we would only be able to stay for a little bit, because she just would get tired very easily. But she'd be there analyzing the game and saying what's going on and what's following. She wasn't distracted or wanted to necessarily sit and talk with friends. She wanted to watch that game. And that was just her spirit. She loved to play and compete. But, I learned a lot from her. People, may know that I played here at Baylor and played volleyball. You really, for me, maybe that's a little bit different, but I really wanted her to play any sport but that. It's because then I could keep my mouth shut, for sure.
Right.
But she kind of ensured that I kept my mouth shut. She'd say, Mom, and I just walk around, but she again, she loved it. And she had a gift very early of playing at advanced level, but also when the game was over, it was over. And I think that's just something that I wish I learned earlier. And but at a very young age, it would be over. And if they were on the other team, they were her friends. If they were on her team, they were friends, or she wanted to be friends, and then have fun. But when we're out there, we are giving it, to the bitter end. But then it's over and we step off that court. It's, we're all together. And it was an amazing thing to watch. That was a gift for me to watch her have that ability at such a young age.
Well, it sounds like even if you hadn't maybe wanted her to be successful in volleyball, that she was. We read stories in that article, and one that stood out to me is that when she was 8, she was playing in a U10 select volleyball tournament in Austin, and she served to start the set and served for consecutive 25 points. So she herself, with her serving, won the game. Coach encouraged her to maybe switch to underhand, and her response was, my mom never taught me that. So, looking back on that story, do you remember that day? Do you recall that? And what did that mean to you to know that was just kind of how she attacked life with full speed at everything she did?
It makes me laugh. Yes, I remember that day. It's like frozen in time. And I think she was, and to be correct, I think she was 9 and it might have been 12 and under, but that was my fault, I think, in the article. Get mixed up sometimes on days. Van Davis, that works here at Baylor, incredible friend of our, incredible coach and friend, and loved Molly, was the coach. And she also hadn't taught Molly underhand, just because, again, like I said in the beginning, she just was built so strong that we never even needed to do that. With even, little children, you start with underhand. But she was strong enough, so we're going to go overhand. So I think Van, she's not on the call, but she would say she was amazed when we were at 9 or 10 points. Now, again, it wasn't all aces. It was playing it. Some were aces, but some were playing it back and forth, and we won the point. So the other 5 young ladies on the team definitely contributed to that. But she just kept serving and serving. And I think that Van, the other coach, I will tell you, I remember that was getting quite upset.
I'm sure.
And, trying everything, calling as many timeouts as they could. And Van would just say, just serve it. And then she did ask her at the end, toward the end, to serve underhand. And you just really not done that before. And then we switched, and we couldn't, the lineup switch it again. So she started again, which is, and then I don't know how many into the next one. But she was just focused. I don't know how else, people were just amazing. Again, she was 9 and everyone else was older. So I have another story that tells you that I didn't get to tell this before. I get to tell it now.
Yeah.
Is that it describes it as well. We were in another select tournament, and poor Ben, we went to his games too. Don't misunderstand, basketball and all of it. But he was down with his sister. We were at a tournament. I believe this one was in Austin. Well, we were in a match. Molly was back to serve, and Ben sitting next to me. Now, Ben used to be and was the quiet one and didn't really say a lot, very observant, watching, but really more shy at that age. And Molly's back serving, and we were serving 23-24. So the other team was up 1 point. And we got the point. Molly's walking back to serve. Well, a mother of the other team, a player on the other team, was sitting right down in front of Ben, our son. And she goes, "Oh, we've got this. And, we've got this. We're going to, get the ball back and, get this point. We're done." And Ben, the one that does not say much, he goes, and he said it in a very nice voice, which I was really glad about, and very respectful voice. He just said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. My sister's up to serve, and she has ice in her veins.
Wow.
And we're going to win."
And we did. I'm sorry.
She served it, and she served out the next 3 points.
Wow.
And the mother looked back, and he goes, And, you can't see me out there, but I'm kind of like shrinking my shoulders. Even at that, he said, my sister has ice in her veins. I mean, that was, she really lived for those moments. And I think when you're out there is, I teach now at Baylor, and I've had a lot of athletes in my class, and at many times over the course, and I especially ask, I guess, the football players, or I'll ask the basketball when, that's an amazing sport to me because it comes down to seconds, or a second of that last shot. Do you want to be the one to make the shot? Do you want to be the one on the free throw line? And then if you're, in football, I'll ask my lineman, do you ever or the quarterback, do you get scared? And, 100% of the time, they want that ball. Mm-hmm. They want to be that person. And I think when you're, at a certain level and you're a true competitor, sure, we all get nervous. I asked a lineman just recently, I said, he's like, I've been doing this since I was a little boy, and I don't get scared. Mm-hmm. He might in the NFL, I don't know. No, but I think that, she had that, where she, even at that age, wanted that opportunity. She said, I can do it. I do it. And she'd say, I said, were you, and I asked her later, I said, were you nervous, or she says, well, no, I've got my team with me. And she was an incredible golfer. I mean, her swing, it just was natural. And the only reason, maybe it would have been later, because she's so young, but she gravitated toward volleyball more. She said, I just like being out there with a team.
One of the students you had in one of your classes was Lake Seastrunk. Mm-hmm. And tell everybody, I remember this year where he really dedicated his season to Molly. What about Lake honoring Molly in that way?
Oh, what a fantastic young man. I am biased. I've never had an experience like it since, really. I came to speak in the summer. It's the first time I'd really ever spoken publicly about the loss of Molly. And I really was going back and forth. And my friend taught this class. And it was a class on death and dying for health majors. And she said, we do a unit on the death of a child. And, I just like them to hear a real perspective of how that is different. And it is different. And what the grieving and what people go through, and parents or children, and just the whole experience. And it was really the Molly and the Lord that got me through that door. But then when I got through it, there was only it was a summer class. So there was only I think 10 or 11 in that class. And I remember him, he stood out because, to be honest, and he laughs about this, but I'll tell you, it was summer, it's hot, we're in Texas, and so he had longer, shorts on, but I really looked down, and I'm like, I've never quite seen legs that big in my life. And so I knew, and then found he's a running back. But anyway, he listened, and I could tell the whole time that other students did, and then he raised his hand to ask me a question. And I called on him, and he just couldn't even speak. He got that emotional. And, that's rare, for college students, and male or female, in front of each other or that setting, but he just did. And I just said, let's wrap it up and we can come talk one-on-one. And so he did, and he just said how much that spoke to him. He said, the whole time you're talking, I can't imagine. I love to compete. I love football. He was great in a lot of sports, growing up, basketball and all of these other sports, but of course chose to come to Baylor and play. He said of that changing overnight, going into the surgery like Molly did, the brain surgery, and come back out and be paralyzed on the one side of your body, and losing all of it. And he said it just impacted him so much. So part of that class and assignments to go to a cemetery. And he said, I don't want to do that. I've not done it. I said, well, let's do it. I'll meet you and we'll go. So I did. I picked him up the next week at his apartment, and he went with me. Molly's buried at Oakwood here in Waco, a beautiful cemetery. And we drove out there, and we got out, and he immediately went up to her marker, and he just got down on his knees. And he broke down, and I said that before, that I really needed to leave because it was that personal of a thing. But what I could hear before I left is he was just talking to her like I'm talking to you two. Is that, and he introduced himself, and I heard your mom talk, and I want to talk to you. And it was a while because I walked around. I wanted to give him, and I came back at probably at least 30 minutes. And he was still down on his knees. Wow. And he just said, and that's probably the first thing he said to me. And ever since then, he just calls me Mom. And he said, Mom, he said, Molly doesn't, what you're carrying and this grief, she doesn't want this for you. And we've got to learn how to let this go. You know, not her go, but let this go. And that you keep living. And it is a heaviness, you know, of living with the loss of a child and all we went through and had to talk about and discuss. But, and so then that's when he decided. He just said, you know, she can't compete anymore. She can't play, but I can. And he just felt like this, that he hears her voice, that he hears, you know, the Lord speaking to him and her speaking to him. And then he decided to do that. And that was a fun season. I mean, he's fun. He's fun to watch, and it was exciting. And so I don't think I've told a few people this story, but this is true, and I don't know if anyone, if they happen to be listening. But we went up, my husband and I were sitting by ourselves up at the Cowboy Stadium to watch that. I believe it was Baylor play Tech up there. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so here we are in this huge Cowboy Stadium, and it's packed to watch. And these two men came and sat next to me. So Dan's on my left, and we're looking at and then these two men, friends, buddies, are on my right. So the game started, and you know, and they're having fun. Then I find out that I believe one went to Baylor. I don't think the other one did. And then it's halftime, and so they get up, they come back, and then he leans over to me. He goes, I was just thinking, and they had talked earlier and found out that I had, you know, was teaching at Baylor, and they said, you know who our favorite player is? And I at Baylor at the time, I said, no. He said, it's that Lake Seastrunk. He said, did you happen to hear that interview? But it was a radio interview. And it was all about his dedication to this young girl that had, you know, passed away, and that that's how he writes her name. I think her name was Molly, and writes on the wrist. He said, I remember listening that I had to pull over the truck on the highway because I listened to it all the time, but I got so emotional, and I pulled over my truck. I called my buddy, who goes, oh yeah, I remember. And I got on, and I'm listening to it. And he said, that was amazing. I loved him before, but after that, I mean, he has been my favorite. Did you ever happen to meet him? That's what he said to me. Did you ever happen to meet him or have him at class? And I said, I'm glad you two are seated right now. And I said, you're really not going to believe what I'm about to say. And he said, well, what, you know him? And I said, I do. And I said, I'm Mom. And he said, what? I said, you know how he referenced, he said, oh yeah, that, you know, he calls that mom, the mother of that little girl, Mom. I said, I'm Molly's mom. And then my husband said, yeah, I'm Dad. And they're like, those men, I mean, they were excited to see Baylor and Tech. Yeah. And, but they were pretty stoked about this experience. And so I just thought, wow, you know, and the Lord, to have in that whole stadium, to have two men that had heard that story before of Lake, and that meant that much. And it was just a cool thing.
Yeah.
That's very special. She was rocking and rolling, playing and kicking butt in volleyball at 9, playing up against the 12-year-olds. But at age 10, she was diagnosed with grade 4 brain cancer, fought that for a year, and then ultimately passed away at 11 and a half. But it sounds like her celebration of life was colorful and a packed house, kind of like some of those volleyball games I'm sure she attended. Her casket was white, says the article, and you guys encouraged everyone with rainbow Sharpies to write notes on that. That's something that's unique, and I was just wondering kind of what sparked that.
Well, again, my best friend is, her name is Julie Stanford, and her husband, Matt Stanford, used to teach here at Baylor. They now live in Houston, but she was my college roommate when I came to Baylor. I came from California to Baylor at 17, and she came from Colorado. And we met in the dorm, and she lived across the hall from me. So I was 17, she was 18. She's older. So anyway, we are polar opposites. If we kid, I call her Skittles or Candyland, and she says, well, you're playing Trouble or Risk. But anyway, she's an art major. She was an art major at Baylor, an art teacher. So and she was Molly's teacher, and loved Molly and through all this. And to be honest with you, when we found out that the tumor was back, they thought that through the brain tumor resection, the surgeries, the radiation, and the chemo, that they'd gotten it. That it was a miracle, and they'd gotten it. But after her third clear MRI, her next one, it showed that it was back and bigger than ever. Her doctor, Dr. Murray up at Cook's Children's, which is incredible to us. He told my husband, I stayed home with Molly, and a friend went with my husband, that it probably be about 3 to 6 months that she would live and be on hospice. Well, they got home, and my husband called hospice that next morning. Molly only lived 2 more weeks. So we were in shock there, and again, just believing until the last minute that the Lord would do a miracle on this side of heaven. And I'll be honest, I still struggle with him and talk to him every day about it. But he's big enough for that. But he called her home, and so Julie, my good friend, and my other good friend Cassie, they went down to the funeral home, and that was their decision. And Julie's decision, they thought all white, and they said she loved color. She did. Like one time, she's described as a 64 colors in the box of crayons. And so everyone had, so she thought of, it was the only time I think that this has ever been done at the funeral home. So it was an all white casket, and then they got to pick the Sharpies and come up and write on it. And, you know, it closed, of course. I would have done that. And also, I knew there would be children. And so, and also, I think with anyone, adult or children, that something they can do, something they feel like that they can leave and leave a mark. And that's kind of the theme of her foundation. We started as Leave Your Mark. And so it kind of all tied together. And that was really Julie's idea and Cassie. And then that's when they would walk through. We had over 1,000 people come.
Wow. Many
Many of those, you know, her age and my son's age and their families. And so, again, like I said in the article, there isn't, you know, a millimeter. There are people laying down underneath. And I don't know if it's ever happened in a funeral home, but that would be Molly. And so I think just to it to be colorful like she was in her life. And what I try to focus on is how much she lived, and not focus on those last 10 and a half months were pretty rough, but but even through that, I tell my students now that have me in class, I couldn't learn any more in life from anyone more than I lived with her, because I watched someone live life at such a young age and all the way through to the end of doing that with grace and dignity and faith till the end. And she was 11 and got this at 10. And so anyway, that's kind of how the colors things came to be.
If you need a trailer, Flat Rock Trailers has got you covered. From light-duty single-axle utility trailers to the big Tex tandem duals. We also carry a full line of enclosed cargo trailers. Need a motorcycle trailer? We've got them. Need a dump trailer? We've got the largest selection in the state. Oilfield trailers? We carry a full line of big Tex trailers to handle all your needs. Trailer repairs? We repair all makes and models. We'll even rent you a trailer if you need to use one for a day. Flat Rock Trailers, your #1 source for all your trailer needs. Find us at flatrocktrailers.com.
TNG can, and here's why. To say my wife and I have a lot to clean is an understatement. So we go to TNG Chemical, where the pros know what cleaning solutions to use and give us detailed instructions on exactly how to use them. We never got that kind of advice from any other stores. And the prices at TNG are great. From general household cleaners to odor control solutions for our pets. We go to TNG Chemical and Supply. That's why.
TNG Chemical and Supply. That's why.
You're listening to the Sick'em Podcast, a production of Baylor Athletics. Here again are Brooke Bednarz and John Morris.
You're listening to the Sick'em Podcast. We're visiting with Jennifer Martinsen, the mother of Molly Martinsen, and that is the little girl whose life is being remembered and celebrated each and every time the Baylor volleyball program enters their new locker room, thanks to a generous gift from former Baylor volleyball coach Mitch Castile. And now we're in the process of participating in the Molly Martinsen Challenge, John, and that's an opportunity for Baylor fans and anyone to kind of leave their mark, like you mentioned, Jen, leave their mark and join in celebrating the life of Molly by permanently naming a locker in the Molly Martinsen Baylor volleyball locker room. So I want to hear from you, first and foremost, what that meant for your former teammate Beth and her husband Mitch, former coach here, to make that lead donation and to have that locker room for the program that you played for be named after your daughter, and then to go into this challenge and what that means to you and your family.
Well, really, it's really hard to put words to something like this. Well, one, it's unexpected, and we're just humbled by it. Both my husband Dan and I and Ben, humbled by that. The Castillos are extremely generous people, and it's just amazing too is that I see how many people, and nothing to take that this isn't a bad thing, but many people talk about how the Lord works in some wonderful ways, and he does, but due to some hard things, I've seen how he works in those, and that when you feel or think he's not there, that, and in your worst of times, that there are things that come that you're like, okay, he is there, and that he is with you no matter what. And I think this is a point here is that never would have thought that however many years ago when I came, when I was 17, Beth, and I can throw this out, she can shoot me later, but, she's 2 years older. So she was a junior, and I came, and I was a scared freshman, and she was, and just a natural leader. But that same young lady has that same spirit of how she played, ultimate competitor, but one of the most humble players I've ever known. Intelligent and always learning. But that's what she does now. I mean, it's one of the, sometimes, people change a lot. I mean, the core of her has not. And just generous and not wanting to take credit. And so in this is that we did, Dan and I, we talked to them, and I said, listen, this is a Castile legacy. This is something you've worked hard for. You have children that have come to Baylor. I want it to be the Castile, or her maiden name's Fountain, Fountain in memory of Molly. And so, again, it's just Lord's work through their heart, I believe, giving us a gift that we could, they wouldn't want us to repay, but it's just bigger than that. Word isn't big enough for me, is to say gift. It just is something that will last forever here at a school that she loved, that Beth and I played for, Mitch coached, that it is a legacy. And we are I can't tell you, I tell, the young ladies now that I see, I've had a couple I've had to have in class that are playing on not have to have in class, but had in class that are playing on the team now. Us oldies, us old ladies, we are just so excited. I mean, are they not just the greatest program ever? And we try to say, oh, yeah, built on this big foundation that we laid. No, just this, But we're so excited to see them. And Coach Ryan and these young ladies, how far they've come, what they're doing, how they represent us as, alumni of Baylor and alumni volleyball players. And most of all, I feel that these young ladies and this coaching staff, that they represent us as a Christian university, so well. And at the heart of why Molly would want to compete, that I always felt that she was gifted like she was and born this way to have this type of platform, to be able to share of what's most important is when we play or when we practice or whatever we do, that people see Jesus. But these young ladies are doing this. And so then to have this in her name and have these young ladies part of this and this legacy, I just really can't put into words how amazing it is. And really humbled because there's so many people and families that could be awarded. I hope that all... again, I do know this on Beth and Mitch's heart is some of these milestones that Baylor Volleyball has gone through, from us as we talk about us older ladies all the way through, and just a legacy also built to women's sports and to what Baylor's done for them and that whole background that be built. And it's something I know we're all very, very proud of. And it's just a generous gift.
Well, and that is the legacy that you helped put in motion, you and Beth and Coach Castile, and Coach McGuyre continues that to this day. He will say in pretty much every interview they play for an audience of one. Mm-hmm. So you're exactly right in knowing their purpose and what they are doing out there. And Molly's a big part of that legacy and will be forever through this naming of the locker room and your story. And we appreciate you sharing with us. Maybe it can't be easy to share the story, but we really do appreciate it. And we want everyone listening to know that they can be a part of this legacy as well by donating to this one-way fund, the Excellence Fund for Baylor Volleyball, and the naming of the individual lockers in the Baylor locker room. And that locker room is the Molly Grace Martinsen locker room. It's a great story. It really is. Jennifer, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'd encourage everyone out there that's thinking about it. It's what John said, is that this program and these young ladies, that you feel confident in, that if you are gifting, that it's something that a locker room is special, that you spend time there. You spend time bonding, you spend time, happy times, sad times, but it is a special place. And that by naming something that that it will be, forever, it'll be something at least, permanent, but that we're going to have in some sense of words that friends have described of Molly, and people like things like courage and faith and different words that we're going to have part of her, the plaque that will be out front. But that'll be part of that locker room as well, and that you feel a part of that those words, that it's more than just a court, it's more than a room. It's what we want, and I know Mitch and Beth would want this as well, that these are words and these are attributes that we want these young ladies and coaches and everyone that goes in there to know that throughout life, this is what we want them to have and want them to personify. And so it is a room, but it's a special place.
Well, Molly chose the team sport, and that's where teams are built the most, is in the locker room. And although she wasn't able to play for Baylor, she will forever be a part of the team with the naming of the locker room and those lockers. So like John said, I do want to thank you for your time. Molly sounds like a very special little firecracker of a girl, and we were honored to be able to meet her through you here today as you shared y'all's story. So thank you again for being here with us.
And if you'd like to participate, contact Nick Florence or Cody Gogler in the Baylor Bear Foundation. You can read the story Jerry Hill wrote. We've referenced it several times, The Legacy of Molly. It's at BaylorBears.com. There's a link there also if you would like to donate and be a part of this Baylor Volleyball Locker Room program, the Molly Martinsen Locker Room for Baylor Volleyball. We appreciate you being with us. Thanks to Jen for being with us and Coach Ryan McGuyre. For Brooke Bednarz, I'm John Morris, and that's this week's Sick 'em Podcast.
You've been listening to the Sick 'em Podcast, presented by your friend in the car business, Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Online at alansamuelsdcj.com. The Sick 'em Podcast has been a production of Baylor Athletics.